Hey, everybody. Good evening. Happy almost Friday. This is Isa from the Austin Urban Technology Movement, your program director. And I am here with Steph from Dev10. And we are here to talk about all things related to one of our cohort options, that being tied to Java and cloud and data for those who are interested. So, Steph, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and get us kicked off here?
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name is Stephanie Novice. I am the client director for the Dev10 Talent Creation Program. Our parent company is Genesis 10, which is a traditional IT staffing and consultant firm. And they launched this talent creation division in direct response to the significant IT talent shortage. Our solution is simple. Dev10 creates and delivers net new emerging talent trained in industry in demand technologies. And we launched this program in 2018 out of our Twin City branch with our first graduating cohort that June, and since have expanded into 7 markets, with Austin being one of our most recent. Dev10 is what we call a hire, train, deploy model. We start with identifying high potential applicants, putting them through a very rigorous selection process with only 5% of our applicant pool being selected. Those that do get selected, we will put them through 14 weeks of training in either our Java Cloud track or our data track. And once training is complete, we align our Dev10 associates with a client where they will be placed on contract and provided continuing mentoring and support while on contract.
That is a lot, and that is all good information. And actually, what's really cool is that thanks for sharing that description. We're going to be able to talk to someone who provides all those resources on the recruiting side and walk you through the entire process of what it's like to join one of the courses or tracks for Dev10. And then following that, we're going to speak with somebody who's been through successfully and has graduated and started her full-time job with one of the employers. So thanks everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, it's a great time to put them in the comment section. If you have anything you just want to celebrate and cheer on with us, you can put that as well in the comment section. We love to interact with you guys and make this more of a conversation. So thank you, Stephanie. And I will actually bring on somebody that you would actually be talking to if you were to get involved with Dev10. So that is Eddie. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm great. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for that. So, like she had stated, my name is Eddie Brock. I'm one of the recruiters here at Genesis 10, specifically with our Dev 10 program, which is fun. It's a great time to be able to interact with people throughout this, and this is a great opportunity. And I just wanted to thank you again for inviting us to this.
Definitely. And so let's get kicked off. So if somebody's wanting to join Dev10 and they're learning about it, through their participation with AUTMHQ, what kind of person would that be, and who would be a great candidate to go through Dev10's program?
Oh, yeah, that's definitely very one of the things that I'm very interested in too, because what Dev 10 is designed for, it's kind of designed for anybody that wants to start a career in this space. It doesn't matter what their background or their experience is. What we're looking for is a variety of candidates from all different walks of life, whether they're a recent graduate in this type of career field or background, or even a career changer, somebody that has decided that they wanted to just kind of jump into this. It's what it's designed for and what it's all about.
Right, right. And so if this person, let's say they decided not to go to college, or let's say they need a degree, what kind of educational background would set them up to be a good candidate for the program?
Okay, so what some of our prerequisites and the requirements are, it is a requirement that they do have a degree prior to the beginning of their cohort that they're applying for.
Mhm.
And most of our locations do require a bachelor's degree, but if they are applying for one of the ones that we have in our Wisconsin area, then they're only required to have an associate's degree. And as it pertains to some of our other requirements and prerequisites, it's unlimited work authorization within the United States,
Mhm.
as well as proof of full COVID-19 vaccination, unless it's prohibited by law.
Okay. And so, I'm sorry, I was going to ask about the locations. You just mentioned that. So what are the locations again? Can you list them off for us?
Yeah, so the different locations we have currently right now at this time, obviously Austin, Texas, and that's kind of why you guys invited us to come and talk, right? But we also have New York, New York, Columbus, Ohio, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Awesome. And so obviously all of our Automites are all over.
Yeah,
They're
definitely.
all over, and we want to make sure that this is something that everybody can participate in, even if they're outside of Austin. So all of our Automites who are outside of Austin and outside of Texas, even, you still can definitely join us with the locations listed in the comment section. So
and with some of the other requirements too, I just wanted to briefly walk through what our pretty intensive application process looks like. So it's kind of a 5-step process. The first step is attending an information session, which is hosted by one of our Dev 10 recruiters, and we cover the program details, and there's an opportunity for some Q&A. After that, we have an aptitude test. It's a 75-minute logic and reasoning test, and it's all done online, and there's no coding at all in that. Once somebody passes the aptitude test, then we schedule a behavioral interview. It's a one-on-one virtual meeting where we have some time to have some open dialogue, to ask and answer questions. But the big thing is what we do is, as the recruiters, we'll lead them through some specific behavioral style questions to kind of get some information about their background and stuff like that. Upon completion of that, they'll do a self-paced web development course. This course is all, like I said, it's all self-paced, and it requires no previous programming knowledge. As one of the main things is, it involves video tutorials, some self-study time, learning to program in JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. And it could take up to 40 hours to complete, and they'll be able to do that, and they'll have a 2-week time frame where they can do that all on their own time. There's no requirement to show up on Mondays, Tuesdays, or anything like that. It's just wide open. Just have it complete during that time frame. And then those that successfully complete all of those things that I just mentioned get an invitation to our group interviews. And our group interviews it's a half-day interview that we hold via Zoom. And during this time, we have everybody work on small business project as a group. It's not technical skills assessment or anything like that. We're just trying to look and see our applicants and candidates' ability to work in a group setting and work together to solve problems. And after that, they get an offer extended.
Oh, that's the most important part. And I want to kind of dive into about how many hours is that somebody's spending on all of those trainings and preparations to get the job offer.
That's a great question. And like I said, it's a very intensive application process. So, I mean, let's see, 1, 2, I mean, you could invest a good up to maybe 50 hours in the application process. And the biggest portion of that is going to be the web development course. And a lot of that's based on an individual's current experience level, because those that have experience or are a computer science major, I've had people complete the web development course in 5 hours. But then I've also seen people on the other end of the spectrum too, where it's like 20, 24 hours and things like that. So it really just depends on the individual's experience level at that time.
That's good. That's good. I'm seeing some people who are, definitely in those areas in the chat. So yes, thanks for chiming in, everyone. As far as some of those requirements, I mean, I would think that the more not strenuous, but the more involved the process is, and that really helps you identify who's really set for the program. Because a lot of times you don't want attrition or, somebody get into the role and they find out this is not what I thought it was. Y'all kind of lay everything out in the forefront, like this is everything you're going to be doing, just being paid on the other end. But this is exactly what the program is going to be like on the other end. So I like that.
And one of the big things that we talk about when we're discussing our web development course is, it's a large commitment. Like I said, it could be up to 40 hours somebody's invested in that course. But what it does is it gives people a glimpse of what their future could hold. right?
Mhm.
What kind of work they'll be doing, and things along those lines.
And so it's part of those steps. You mentioned a couple of interviews. What happens if somebody, I guess, they don't necessarily pass the aptitude test or they don't do as good on the interview? What's the process? Do they have to start over? Do they kind of just maybe just redo whatever aspect it is that they didn't do necessarily well in and try again? What happens?
So for the most part, it's kind of it's a more of a straight line
Mm-hmm.
effect, I would say, in our application process. And if you fall off at some point, or
Mm-hmm.
you don't qualify at some point, then that's kind of the end of the road for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, each and every person has their own individual circumstances, and depending on what it was, we as the recruiters, we have those options and opportunities to really look at and evaluate those. And
Mm-hmm.
if there is a case where we can do that, then we discuss that with our teams, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
come up with a final decision and determination on how
Mm-hmm.
to move forward.
But a person can, let's say, if they don't make it, let's say they for some reason don't attend the group interview, at the end. It's really based on the time frame because right after that group interview, the cohort for training starts, right?
Yeah, all the cohorts begin shortly after the group interviews. Yes, correct.
So ideally, if somebody falls off or something happens in that process, they would obviously talk to you and make sure this is all the options
Mhm.
they have. But because you have recurring cohorts, they can jump into the next one and just try again, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep. So if for something come up in their schedule and they weren't able to make a specific group interview, and we do
Mhm.
rolling admission as well.
Okay.
So we could have somebody at a group interview that was held this week and
Mhm.
still not even start in one of the cohorts that doesn't begin until June or July. There
Okay.
could be that delayed start time and things along that nature.
And then the dates for the different locations will, vary based on the location.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we have about right now what we're looking at is we're looking at cohorts starting about one per month.
Okay.
1 to 2 different cohorts starting per month, and all those locations are kind of subject. So, and that's something that we talk about during the behavioral interview,
Mm-hmm.
is where a lot of those things start getting narrowed down. Is which locations would they like to apply for, and which specific technology track, whether it's our Java track or our data track,
Mm-hmm.
um, and what their primary is, maybe what their secondary would be. If they weren't able to get into this one, would they have a secondary? Those are things that we discuss during the behavioral interviews, and we have those one-on-one conversations with our candidates as the recruiter.
So as far as the training goes, let's say let's say I'm not in Austin, right? But I'm looking
Mhm.
at a role that's in Austin that I'll be
Okay.
training for. I would need to relocate to Austin, right? Or is there a way for me to do the training and then relocate based on the company? What does that look like?
Oh, great question. That's a part of our training that we talk about. So our training um, is it's 100% virtual. So they don't have to relocate for the training, but they do have to relocate and be in that specific market area upon graduation.
Okay.
And the time and at the point that they start as a Dev 10 consultant and start
Mhm.
working on their client assignments.
And so what's the time frame for training again? How many weeks is it for
They vary. They're approximately 3 months,
Okay.
about 14 weeks for the most part. For the
Okay.
most part,
So they have some time if they want to relocate, they have some time to kind of get that together
correct.
while they're doing training. Okay.
Correct. And then also we do our client assignments during training as well. And
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure Smitha will talk about that a little bit in a little while. And it gives them the opportunity to, once they get their client assignment that they're going to be working with directly after graduation,
Hmm.
then they have that opportunity to secure housing maybe closer to that
Hmm.
place so they're not spending time traveling as much.
That's good. And so, is there anything that somebody needs to be, to do outside of class? I know all our automites will be doing automite related activities, but is there anything else
Mhm.
that might benefit them or help them along with the program? Or is it all
So
package of the training?
it's a whole package in the training. But so our training is a 9 to 4. It's all based on Central Time, right? So the training is scheduled and it's specific with our instructors and it's timing and everything like that. It's Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. But outside of class, they will have things that they have to do outside of class. whether that's self-study, project assignments that they'll have to work on either individually or with their group, as well as sometimes they'll do like virtual lectures or something like that they'll have to catch up. And it's normally average about 1 to 3 hours a night per Monday through Friday.
So this would be like a full-time schedule that they're getting involved with.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
But the investment is there because it results in a direct placement. So
correct.
It's just a matter of just timing it. That's good. And I do have some questions. So we did answer in terms of moving or to that location for the job. Yes. Oh, what was that? I'm sorry. Finesse, to answer your question, do you have to live in the location? For the job placement, yes. But the training can, like he said, Eddie said, can be done virtually. So thank you for asking your question. Would you consider DevTen to be a boot camp necessarily, or how would you describe the program?
So actually, what DevTen is it's a full-time job, and what we do is we pay our consultants to complete our immersive training or our immersive technology training at the very beginning, and that's that training aspect that we were talking about for those first 3 months. But then after training, that's when they begin their 2 years of hands-on experience as a DevTen consultant.
Okay, and during that training period, is that a paid period as well? During the
It is.
Okay, so
there's a training salary, and then there's the consultant salary, and that there's a couple differences in how all that stuff works out, and those details are further explained during our information sessions and stuff like that.
Okay, thanks for sharing. And so, as far as the market, is there, I guess, any time where there'll be like a fluctuation of the roles that are available in the cities that DevTen is located? So, for example, if somebody started off with the training process or the interview process in Austin, but would there be a change of roles at any time, or is it based on if those roles were filled? How do you maintain, I guess, the job placement portion at the end?
So again, they're an employee of Genesis 10, and they're just consulting with our different clients. And if we have them assigned to a specific client, let's say in the Austin area, and that's who they specifically start working with upon graduation, if the contract ends or the assignment ends, the only thing that would change would be the client that we have them working with. But their employment status is full-time Genesis 10 employee throughout the duration of the contract. And we would never change. The things that we don't change are the market area or their location. Or specifically the data track or the technology track that they're on. The only thing that could possibly change is the different client assignments.
Could you describe some of the things that a consultant would be doing, I guess, when they finish their training? Like can you talk about some of the projects they'll be working on?
So it just really depends on whether they go through as a software developer or as a data professional. Each one of those roles, it would just be different types of assignments specific to those kinds of roles.
Okay. And it's based on then the employer as well?
Correct. Yeah. So it could be front-end development, back-end development, application development.
But all that is they're being prepared for that during training?
Most definitely.
That's awesome.
Most definitely.
And then as far as the employers, is there like a certain listing of employers that you normally, I guess, that apply for all the locations, or is it kind of geographically based on the different cities?
So again, we are the employer, so that's the fun part, right? But the clients, there's definitely.
Sorry, that's what I said, the clients.
Yeah, so the clients, we have a wide range of clients, and some of those are specific. Like some of the examples we've paired up with Best Buy, Northwest Mutual, Prime Therapeutics. I mean, Southwest Airlines. There's all kinds of them, and a lot of them keep coming back. And I know Stephanie's been here doing this longer than me, so her list could be much longer than what I would say. But they just keep coming back. They love the consultants that are coming through our program and this specific training that we're providing.
So I'm learning to you guys. I got to get the right terminology of the clients, then you have the employer. I want to make sure I'm going to say the right thing. So thanks for correcting me.
No worries.
No, and as far as those who are, kind of on the edge of joining and trying to really decide they want to get involved in this 14-week training, is there any advice you want to share with them that will help them kind of make the decision to just kind of jump into it or not?
Just have faith, take the leap, just jump in. I mean,
Jump
there's
in.
only one way to find out, right? So one of the things that I always like to talk about is investing time, right? Um, and that's all. That's all right now. That's all that we're asking to do is asking people to invest some time to learn about our program, to sign up for one of the information sessions, to hear what we as the recruiters have to say, to talk about the different steps and processes throughout the program, and invest the time to see if it's something that you would even like to do.
Mhm. That's a good point. Especially when it comes to joining something that is full time. I think
Mm-hmm.
while you're going through the application process, that could really be the telltale sign, like you said, of doing the web development course that's self guided. All the interviews that let you know that this program is very serious, it is very
Mm-hmm.
involving, but the investment is real because once you get in, you have the job placement role, and then you're pretty much set from there on, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
A lot of programs, just like apply and then you're in, we're kind of along those lines, but it's because we have a lot of different opportunities once you get inside. But once you
Yep.
start the actual curriculum, it's a good way to tell, do I really want to focus on data analytics? Do I really want to focus on software, development? And then UX by design, jumping in and finding out that's a niche for you. So what I was trying to find, then that can really determine if this is a good program, before you even start the 14-week training. So I like the way
Yep.
y'all kind of break it down before you even actually start the full-time part of the course.
Well, thank you. Somebody smarter than me and somebody that's been here doing this longer than me did it all, and they did a phenomenal job, I think.
Yes, and I do have some questions. I was trying to answer everybody's question while they're asking in the
Oh, okay.
conversation. So we're going to go back and look at some of the questions that I think are just for you, Eddie. So
Okay.
let's see. Thanks to everybody for your questions. I just kind of started throwing them in here.
Yeah,
So
they did.
to start off at the top, you do need to live in the location. How about this? Are y'all looking to expand? Here's my Texas into Houston. Is that next on the plan?
Um, I can tell you, I would say that I know our sales and delivery teams are definitely out there looking and asking, and I know there's a lot of different interests in the things that are out there. And if you want to bring Stephanie back in or Steph
Yeah,
back in,
definitely. I think
I
that
want
would.
to defer that question to her actually.
Oh, unmute, Stephanie.
Oh,
Wait. I got you. There we go.
Sorry. Yeah, into that. So to date, we are not in Houston, but it's on our list. We have done cohorts in the Dallas market, obviously now in Austin, and Houston is not off the table. We're exploring all things, probably more towards 2023.
Definitely. Thank you for that question, Clinton.
Mhm.
And so we already answered if the 14-week portion is paid during the training. So as you mentioned, there's two different salaries. Is there like a range you could share, or how's that broken down? How's
so
the
during the training phase, it's $600 per week,
Mhm.
and we pay out on a biweekly basis. So it's $1,200 every 2 weeks while they're going through the trainee status. And
Mhm.
then our consultant pay is for the first year is $50,000 annual salary. With in the year two, there's a performance based raise up to $60,000.
So could
And
you break that? I was saying, could you break that down a little bit, because you mentioned some, when you get hired on, what's the time frame that you would be hired on for the contract position? Is that the 24 months?
Oh yeah, so the salary starts once you graduate from training and start as
Gotcha.
a consultant. Yep, and there's no gap in that. That's immediate. Like
Okay.
yeah. When you get picked up, it's the whole contract is for 27 months, which covers the 3 months of training and then the 24 months as a consultant.
Thank you for that. And I do have a question from Well, coming from Kiera, wanted to know about the Austin market in terms of having roles available for Dev 10. Do we have roles currently available in Austin, or is that something that we probably need to revisit?
Eddie,
Oh,
I don't know if you wanted to take it. I'm happy to.
yeah, no. So I think I'm looking at the question, and the thing is it might not have been open to us as the recruiters at the time that they went through that application process.
Okay.
So it might have been something that was in the works and wasn't completely set yet. So as they get set, then that's when we as the recruiters are then talking about the open locations and things like that. Because we're definitely, like Steph said, we're working in so many different markets that for us as the recruiters to know all of those, it just kind of throws us in a different direction because the contracts aren't signed. And the other thing is we don't like to advertise any positions or locations specifically until we know that we have dedicated clients in those areas for those placements, because we don't put people into the training or into a contract unless we know that there's going to be a guaranteed spot for them in that specific market. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of that stuff.
In some cases.
But that could change over time, like between the difference between now and next week, that could easily change about that role being available, right?
I'm not sure I'm clear on the question.
So in terms of a role or a client having positions, like you were saying, Eddie was saying, having positions that are ready, that time, knowing that information could change over time. It's not something that's necessarily set in stone for that cohort, somebody who's joining that cohort.
Yeah, we don't build our cohorts out based on our clients. You know, for example, Austin's one that we entered into before we got clients just to get the ball rolling and committed to. But, you know, we do have July, a cohort starting in Austin, as well as August. I think those are 2 remaining that we would be recruiting for the remainder of the year planned out.
And then a couple of questions here towards the end. Moti would say, so we did talk about the qualifications in the beginning. So if you want to reiterate some of those, it's just the application process, the interview process has a series of items that are required to complete. But one of the main requirements is having a 4-year degree. And then you could decide on between the Java Cloud, software development, or you can decide between the data analytics side, correct? But moving on past that, it's just really completing the interview process. That takes more, I think, energy than anything, right? And then another question here, as a consultant on a team, this actually might be a good question for Smitha when she comes on later. So I'm gonna save your question, Jose, in terms of the experience of working on one of the teams. What language? So what are the applications used at the job, and what languages do you prefer? I'm gonna ask you, Fahad, if you could maybe put in the chat when you're talking about languages, are you talking about the actual like coding languages, or it could be actually spoken languages? I want to clarify before we do answer that question. And then, yeah, the last couple of questions I want to save for Smitha because that actually applies to her experience, which I'll bring on now. So thank you, Steph, and thank you, Eddie. We will bring you back on towards the end for any more question and answers, but I really appreciate your time with us today. So.
Thank you.
No problem. So, hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I was trying to save some good stuff for you. We got to start getting the questions and kind of decided I got rolling there. But I want to introduce you because you've gone through the Dev 10 program. You've finished the 14-week training. You completed, obviously, the interview process successfully. And we want to know about your experience and really how you learned about Dev 10 and how you got to this point today.
Yeah. So I graduated from college in 2016, and I started the Dev 10 program in 2021. During that time between graduation, I was mainly working in college admissions, but I knew that wasn't necessarily the career path that I wanted. So I took a lot of time to figure out what career path I wanted to go in, what kind of work I wanted to do. And during that research, I reached out to a alumnus from my college to see. She was the same major as me. So I was a political science and theology double major, and she was also theology major. And I was thinking about software engineering, and I saw that she was also a theology major who was now in software engineering. And I was like, okay, like that's not something you usually see. So I reached out to her, and she had gone through the Dev 10 program. And so that's how I learned about it. And so when I learned about it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a cool option. Like I get paid during training. I get a guaranteed job placement afterwards with a client. So I was really excited about that. So I applied and I got in, and, it really just worked out the best for me.
No, that's awesome. And I'm glad your word of mouth is really strong nowadays, Yeah. So really learning about a program, especially somebody who, is familiar with it, that probably give you more confidence about joining.
Definitely.
So as far as the overall experience, I know you're at the latter part in terms of actually having the job, but can you tell us about your overall experience? Maybe if you want to walk us through your interview experience or your application process, and let us know some things that stuck out to you.
Sure. So yeah, I started with the application process. I just sent in my resume to the online portal. I attended the info session. And after attending, I took the aptitude test. For me, I would say that was honestly the hardest part, just because it's a lot of it's not hard math or anything, like probably like middle school algebra, but stuff I hadn't done in a long time.
Things
but
you regretted, right?
Yeah. Got through it just fine. And then, did the individual interviews, and then did the 2-week training in JavaScript. That went pretty well. When I had been doing my research, I had done a Udemy web development course, and I had learned a lot of similar things that you learn in the web development course as part of the interview. So that was really useful. And also gave me confidence that I was taking a good course and, learning web development. Group interview went great. And I wanted to start at the most upcoming cohort. So I did the group interview. I got my offer, I think a day later, and I started a week later. So it was really, really fast. And my recruiter was great throughout the entire thing. She told me, everything that was going on. She kept in touch. She was really good about everything. So that was kind of the interview process.
So outside of this program, you hadn't really touched anything related to web development, right? This is kind of like your first go around with all of this?
Yeah, basically. So I had done that Udemy course, but it was basically everything that you learned during the 2-week web dev course. But other than that, that was the first time I had touched a coding anything. I did not know hello world or anything. So yeah, it was full on A to Z learning everything.
That's good. And so in terms of adding I know you mentioned the Udemy course in terms of preparing for the application process, but when you got involved in the full-time, was it 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 training, was there anything else you had time to do outside of that to kind of help you better prepare yourself for the course and complete it?
Not really. So the training portion, it's kind of like backwards school. So how usually in school you are, sitting in the classroom, the teacher is teaching you the new concepts and that kind of stuff. This is kind of backwards, where the homework that you do is really where you learn and are introduced to those new concepts. And then that is built upon, and that's solidified during the class time, during the class time and lectures and things like that. So I guess that's kind of the only thing I did, is just really do the homework, do all of the different exercises and things that were already, I was told to do, and I got through just fine.
That's good. And so one of the questions somebody asked was, do you work in teams? with other consultants, or what is that experience like? And I guess you can speak on the training side, and then you can also speak on the actual full-time job side.
Yeah, so as far as the training side, there are some group labs that you will do, and that's a really good way to get to learn how to work with other your coworkers and learn how to peer code and those types of things that you will do on the job. So yes, there definitely is group time, but then there is a lot of individual work as well. And then me personally, I love working with people. So like in the evenings when I needed to do my homework, I would just sit on Zoom with my classmates and we would just do it together, like shout out a question if we had anything. But you can make it as individual as you want it to be. And then now on the job, I don't necessarily work with a team of consultants. I do work on a team and I work very closely with my coworkers, but they're not all Dev 10 consultants.
Okay.
So I do have one of my coworkers is a previous Dev 10er, but she is now a full-time employee of Ameriprise, which is the client I'm at. But yeah, so it's not necessarily only consultants together. It's truly a mix of like consultants and employees and all that kind of stuff.
That's good. And thank you for your question, Jose. So as far as transitioning from the training over to the actual full-time job, could you walk us through your interview process and how did that happen?
Yeah, so interviews can start really early on into the training process. I think for my cohort, we started getting interview requests during week 4 or 5. So that was pretty soon. So I interviewed with 2 clients and I got an offer from the second client. The interview process, they really, the recruiters really prep you for it. So they'll tell you like who you'll be interviewing with, what they're looking for, what the job might be like, all that kind of stuff so that you go in prepared. They also help you create an elevator pitch. They clean up your resume. So they're really trying to help you put your best foot forward when you're talking with the clients and figuring out if you're a good fit for each other.
Right.
So you do get some say into which client you're placed with. So that's really nice. So I really clicked with the people from Ameriprise. So that worked out for me. But yeah, so you start interviewing during training. And I would say like 3/4 of my cohort already had their placement, their job placement, or I guess client placement by the time that training was done. And there were a couple people who still hadn't gotten their placement yet, but they got it very soon after.
And so when I guess with the client, you mentioned that you really connected with one of the clients out of all the ones that you end up interviewing for. About how many clients are you interviewing with at a time? Or is it just like maybe a panel or a group situation where you're interviewing and they kind of reach out to you afterwards? Can you explain a little bit about that part?
Yeah, so you're interviewing with just one client at a time. So I only did 2 client interviews. So I interviewed with one client and they decided not to go with me, which was a good, I think that was the best choice for both of us. And then the second client I interviewed with did work out. So it really just depends. So, I feel like the Dev 10 recruiters do a really good job of trying to place you with a team that you will work well in. So, they're trying to find the right fit for you. So that's really nice that you have the opportunity to interview with multiple clients and, figure out which one is best for you.
And I think you mentioned this, but this is happening while you're in training. So you're not waiting to the end of training. You're going ahead and start interviewing, I guess, weeks into the program, and then you start really starting filling out the different positions and clients that are available. You start interviewing. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So you start interviewing right away. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. And so thanks for saying in our chat here. It is known that Dev 10 associates can't turn down the client. So in terms of when you get the offer, what happens But what happens if you get multiple offers? You just choose between the two, or do you have to go with whoever asked for you first? Or who?
Yeah, it's whoever, since you're only interviewing with one client at a time,
Mhm.
it's just whoever offers for you first.
And then, okay, instead of interviewing past that, and then, okay, I understand. Kind of get you in the job as quickly as possible, right? No delays. So definitely share. Thank you for sharing with that. And so I do have a question on here from an individual. And while I'm looking at the question, how many months or years? How far are you into the program now, so far?
So
On the higher side?
I'm, I guess, 6 months into my 2 years after training.
Okay. And could you explain a little bit about why there's the 2 years? Could you explain what happens during those 2 years in terms of the full-time offer and all of that? Could you share a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. So I guess it's just, you know, a 2-year contract for working with the clients and being a Genesis 10 employee. During the 2 years, you know, you get the opportunity to work with hopefully multiple clients or the same client if you are a good fit with them and they want to keep you on. And then after that, you know, you might get an offer from one of the clients that you work with and just become a full-time employee there, or you come out of it with 2 years of experience, and that's, you know, that's really getting you past the hump for the amount of experience you want as an engineer. So that's really nice.
And one thing you mentioned here that caught my attention. So while you're working between the two different clients, do you have to interview again, or you just get different assignments?
Honestly, I don't know because I haven't gone through
Experienced
that
that
part yet. Yeah. So, you know, the client that I'm with right now, I have a 1-year contract with, so, or not contract, but like 1-year placement. So we'll kind of see what happens after that. If they want to keep me on for another year, what happens?
I think I'm gonna bring Stephanie closer to the end of some of your questions here, because she's definitely sending me some chats on the other side, as well as some questions I know that she can, both of y'all can speak to. But as far as your experience, if you could change anything that you did with Dev 10 or, you know, without Dev 10, would you change that during this time frame, or would you change that experience?
I honestly wouldn't. With, you know, the opportunities that I was looking at, like this was definitely the best option. I think that, you know, it's definitely, the training is very intensive, but you learn a lot, and it's, you know, it's really exciting in a way. Like it's very intense, but it's exciting because you get to learn new things. You get to see just in a week, like how far you come in your knowledge and your learning. So yeah, I guess honestly, the only thing I would say is I did my training over the summer and I had like, you know,
That's ideal.
friends' weddings and things like that going on, a couple of summer plans. So I would just say, like, make sure you're doing it in a time where you're not very busy.
Right.
And that'll just make life easier for you. But yeah.
Yeah, planning is a major, especially we know that there's rolling enrollment. Then planning a time that's better fit for your schedule is not maybe ideal, not to just jump to the next one just because it's available, but plan ahead. No, this is going to be about 14 weeks, you know, of your life. Go ahead and make sure it's a time that is you can focus, really just dive into it, and that on the outside, on the other end of that, you can just kind of sell into the actual full-time position.
Exactly.
I definitely agree with that. And so, do you have any plans for the future in terms of either working with the client that you're with now, or are you looking outside of the clients that you're, you know, tied to the Dev 10 program? Are you out like networking outside of this as well?
Yeah. So right now, I'm really invested in staying with the client that I'm currently with. So hopefully, you know, just continue to do a good job during my 1-year placement with them, and hopefully continue with them in the future. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
And I don't know if we touched on this, but during their 2-year time frame as in your role or with the client as a consultant, you can be offered a full-time position with the client as early as 1 year, right? Or 12 months into the program?
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, that's my hope, is that after my 1-year placement with them, I get an offer for a full-time position with them.
That's awesome. So I'm glad you're in it, and we're going to keep stay posted on your progress. And I definitely think if you have any thing you want to share with our Automites, this would be a great time. If you have any advice or any personal experience that, may have helped you and kept you encouraged, you can share that now. And I'll definitely put your LinkedIn here in the chat so they can connect with you.
Sure. I guess I would say that, don't be scared about going through the process or not feeling qualified. I think that's something that I definitely felt going through it, coming in as a poli-sci and theology major and not having any computer experience whatsoever. I was definitely nervous to even send in my resume. But, as I went through the process and got through each stage, I was like, okay, got through this, I can do the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really encouraging. And then you get to learn more about the Dev 10 just program as you go through the process. So if you're unsure, just apply and you can see, what it's like and if it's for you. And then when it comes to training, you're learning a lot at a very fast pace, but, and it's going to be scary. Like a lot of my classmates who were computer science majors, they were also just as, lost as I was at some points.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't matter what background you come from. If you're working hard and you want to learn and you ask questions, then you'll do well and you'll get through it. And your instructors are really there to help you.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing that. And so I'm going to bring on Stephanie again, because we did have some comments and questions and even things that I brought up that I'm learning from you guys that she would like to share. So I think one of the questions we talked about was multiple assignments. Do you have to re-interview for the different clients, or are you moved around to the different assignments? Could you ask to maybe stay with the client? Is that a possible opportunity?
Yeah. So the process really is, it's first come, first serve for our clients to interview with our Dev 10 associates. So once the client selects a candidate, they're officially aligned. And the goal is that they're going to stay with that client for the next 12 plus months. From a client perspective, and what I'm trying to do for the client is help them future-proof their workforce. So we really want to align them with a client that's going to be their future employer. They do have that ability to convert our Dev 10 associates at the 12-month mark. However, we have had situations where a client's lost funding and therefore could not continue to keep that contractor on billing on their end. So what happens is we will remarket that Dev 10 associate and put them back in the pool and start them interviewing with other clients that are hiring.
Gotcha.
That would really be the only case where we have a Dev 10 associate that is going to be working with multiple clients at that point.
Okay, thank you. And one of the other questions is, I think somebody actually asked about the Genesis 10 connection. Do you mind sharing about that a little bit again, please?
Yeah, so that's our parent company, the traditional IT staffing and consultant firm. So Genesis 10 has been in business for, 22, 25 plus years, headquartered out of New York City, and has branches all over the United States. And 2018 is the year that they did launch the talent creation division.
Awesome. That is good information. And then last question I saw in the chat while we were talking is, after your 2 years, and Smith, you actually mentioned this a little bit. After your 2 years, and you maybe don't get offered a full-time position with the client, what ideally happens after that for the participant?
So we have had clients that will keep the individual on contract, billing them from a contract perspective versus converting them. And really after that 24-month contract, the Dev 10 associate has the choice to continue to stay on with that client from a contract perspective, where they would still be a Dev 10, Genesis 10 employee, receiving the same benefits and PTO that I get myself, or they can look for a job on their own. It's really up to them at that point. As long as they've completed their commitment to the contract, they have the freedom to make that next step.
Okay. Well, thank you. Actually, I'm going to bring on everybody and give some call to action items for those who are interested. Because I think about 3 people asked for the link to sign up. So I'm trying to hold off, but I definitely want to share. So all of our Automites, you have already probably had this conversation with me before when we were going about talking about your experience and kind of where you land. But this is one of our on-the-job training opportunities. So in addition to the training, the 14 weeks training, then landing the role for the 2-year contract, this is where that will line up in your training. Those who are not a part of AUTMHQ yet, your next step would be to join AUTMHQ. So if you have not done so already, you can visit our website and you can, I'm trying to hide that, sorry, the current comment. You can go to our website and select individuals. There is a form you would complete that would have, all the demographic information we're looking for to kind of understand a little bit more about you. But when you get to the section about the cohorts, you can select Dev 10 Java Cloud or Dev 10 Data Professional. And that'll let us know which one you're interested in, so that when we get you in contact with somebody like Eddie, and even with Steph, we already know kind of what path you're looking to join. So that is the first step. So there is the link there. And then as far as joining Dev 10, so those who got past that part, there is a referral email that we use internally where we would send over your email, your resume and your information over to the team directly. So no need to have an external application or anything extra clicks that you need. You're just going to get involved with Autumn on our side. Join the cohort. We go through our process of orientation, sharing more about AUTMHQ. You join the cohort, which would be the Dev 10 course. So we work in tandem. A lot of things that we do at AUTMHQ sets you up to work with organizations like Dev 10. So we're taking off the load of searching and finding and applying on your own by kind of just streamlining you through the process automatically. I did put in the chat the LinkedIn, but I got an error. So if somebody can let me know if y'all see the chat, the LinkedIn links in the chat. I have one for Smita. I also have Eddie's email address if you would like to reach out to him. But it's to get started and get signed up, you would definitely go straight through Autumn HQ, and then we'll get you started with the team. Any other questions that maybe y'all have or comments that y'all want to share? Anybody else in the chat? Because y'all were
to help the Austin communities and obviously all the locations that Autumn is in, AUTMHQ. So just excited for our partnership.
Yes, most definitely. So thank you for joining. This is actually, this is what we wanted. This is what we wanted time to spend and really talk about the program, hear from somebody who's been through it themselves to show that this is real. This is something you can move into. As she said, she had a poli-sci major and now she's a software engineer. So if you don't believe it on your own, this is a good time to really reassess, some of those thoughts and just try it out. Like Eddie said, just jump in, do the interview process. That's, involving in itself. So do the interview process. If you get past that, that's one hump. Now get paid to do training. So let us know, what you think and, join Dev 10 with us today. So thanks for joining, Smita. Thank you, Eddie. And thank you, Stephanie, for joining us today.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Have a great night, everybody.
Same here. Thanks. Have a great day.
Have a good one.
Thank you.